Hey everybody, Derek here for. Hang on, mic on? Mic is on. Okay, Derek. I always gotta check. Eric here for the weekly news recap for the 22nd to the 28th of August 2022. So we'll jump in. So big news this week is Gamescom. So Gamescom is a European-focused E3, basically. That's where a lot of games, particularly European developers and publishers, show off their games for the rest of the year and into next year, and then stuff coming in the future. So, with that, Jeff Doritos Pope Keeley had his opening night live, and it's recapped here by Imran Khan for Fanbyte. So we're just going to go through a couple of the trailers that were shown off, because there were a lot. Too many, one might say. So first one is Everywhere. This is from former Rockstar, former Grand Theft Auto Red Dead Redemption developers who have branched off to do their own thing. Everywhere is being billed as a multi-world game, basically. The idea being is that there are many different types of game in Everywhere, and there is some overarching plot that connects all of them together. So I think they're going for a kind of Ready Player One metaverse kind of thing, in that the big overarching all-encompassing game is like real world, realistic kind of thing, and then there's kind of these like sub-worlds that you'll dive into and play, like a racing game, an adventure game, a puzzle game, that kind of thing, and they'll have, I don't know, some other kind of lead on into the story. But you can see, I think this is what the bigger game is this kind of realistic dystopian kind of thing, what they're going for. And then the main game, or sorry, the sub games are a bit more colorful. Do they show it all? Yeah, so like the sub games will be these kind of more colorful things. Everywhere devs have been given a bit of shit lately because they have a lot of Bitcoin stuff and blockchain stuff on their website. So people are kind of thinking that is this a fucking blockchain game? And they're trying to say, no, this isn't going to be a blockchain game. We are looking into the technology, but it won't be used in this game. And it's like, I don't know. We need to know more. That was Everywhere. Then we had a look at Dune Awakening, and I say look, I mean it's a CG trailer, just like Everywhere, just like a lot of the trailers that were shown off at opening night live rather, at Gamescom. They're all CG pre-rendered stuff. There's very few of them had any actual gameplay in it, which was obviously a big complaint of a lot of the awards show that Jeff Keighley also does, E3 and so on, is that there's very little focus on the actual gameplay. So that's kind of an issue. But this is Dune Awakening. It's being billed as an MMO survival game, which basically means I have zero interest in it whatsoever. I just thought I would highlight it because it's a cool trailer. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, but the big worm, the big dune worm, eats that facility, and then he hangs out at the side, waits for the worm to come up, and does a big dive on top of it. How much of that will actually be in the game? I'm thinking exactly zero, probably, but I guess we'll see. MMO survival out sometime soon. And we had a very, very quick look at the new DualSense, or the DualSense Edge, as it's called. So this is Sony's Pro controller, if you like. So if you are familiar with Xbox's Elite controller, it has a bit of customization stuff. You can kind of swap out the D-pad, you can swap out the analog sticks and things like that. So you can do something similar here with the DualSense. It has different analog sticks that you can swap out. You can get flat domed ones, high domed ones, and stuff like that. If that doesn't make any sense to you guys, a taller analog stick is better for fine-tune aiming. So putting your right analog stick, your aiming stick, as a long analog stick means you can aim easier. Whereas if you need quick movement, you'll want like a smaller, a shorter analog stick and things like that. You can change the travel on the triggers, the adaptive feedback and stuff like that. So there's little toggles you can see on the back, where you can change the travel amount on the triggers. So you can either have to press a lot to activate it or press very little to activate it. And there is like back buttons. You can see them there. Again, these are also customizable. You can either make them levers or depressible buttons and stuff like that. Again, these are things that are already in the Elite controller for Xbox, so this is Sony just kind of playing catch up a little bit. No information on how much it's going to cost, but the Elite controller is like €150 or something like that. So presumably this will also be something similar. Callisto Protocol, a bit more of that, so some more gameplay of the Callisto Protocol. This is from Striking Distance developers, who formerly from Visceral Games, who made Dead Space, and it's very obvious that they made Dead Space because this is Dead Space, basically. Or it might as well be. They just changed the name of it, but it's pretty much Dead Space. So they have a quick look through some combat. It's interesting that there's a bit of a stealth focus. I'm getting a bit of The Last of Us as well, in that he's very careful about approaching enemies. He's not kind of wading in. Original Dead Space, it wasn't necessarily recommended that you wade in on enemies, but you could manage it. You know, they weren't too bad, whereas this has like stealth options. You can see the guns themselves are not particularly effective, or rather, you really need to pick your shots. Obviously, having the telekinesis is incredibly useful. Enemies are very gross, but you do need to like pick your shots. You need to aim for the parasite bit in the body, not the actual flesh, because it doesn't really do anything. So I guess you want to have the parasite exposed in the Callisto Protocol. Enemies can hurt each other, so that's showing off. Enemies can hurt you, which is obvious enough. You're probably not getting the sound effects here, but the gun sounds really good. Like, it sounds like a lot of fun. And this, I'm gonna leave this up just so we can see it, because there's a bit here where he takes off an arm, I think, and its head is gone, as you can see. Now the parasite has erupted, and is it here? Is it after this bit? Yeah, he just tears the whole thing off, and now he's like super powered version. But he can still get ground up just like everybody else. So there's a lot of interesting things happening there with the enemies. The second part of the trailer is a kind of scripted sequence where you get carried away by the water, and you get pushed down like a drainage tunnel or whatever. It's very Tomb Raider-y, and I think you kind of have an idea what that is. There's various obstacles that you can get launched into, and if you're not careful, you'll die immediately. So it's just get out of the way. It's very basic. Still gross, though. There's still some pretty horrible death sequences at the end of that. The Lords of the Fallen. So this is a sequel / reboot of Lords of the Fallen, which was one of the earliest Soulsborne Me Too's from Psy Games. So they made a Souls-like called Lords of the Fallen, which was not particularly good. It looked really nice, but it didn't play very well. Combat was very clunky and very unfair. Like, Dark Souls, despite being hard, I wouldn't ever call it unfair. Like, you know what you're getting into. You're expecting that it will be difficult, but I don't feel it's not fair. Dark Souls 2 and 3 maybe, but Dark Souls 1, no. Dark Souls 1 always seemed like it was balanced. Anyway, the Lords of the Fallen is, rather than them making a sequel, they've decided to reboot the whole thing. It's the one game and they've decided to go on a reboot already. Okay, fair enough. Again, entirely a CG trailer. There's no gameplay showing off here. There's also copyrighted music used as well, so if you're going to restream it yourselves, be careful there. It certainly looks very metal, I'll give it that. Again, won't be able to say anything otherwise until we see some actual gameplay. And we have Moving Out 2. I'm not really going to show a trailer for that because I think you kind of have an idea. It's Overcooked, but you're moving furniture around. Same deal, and it's the sequel to it. New Tales from the Borderland is kind of a sequel to Tales from the Borderland, the Telltale Borderlands game. So if you're familiar with the old Telltale games, they're choose your own adventure kind of things, but it's set in the Borderlands universe. Gearbox have taken back the IP from Telltale, so they're making the game themselves. The trailer I won't go into, but it doesn't feel like it's as carefree as the first game, I guess. Dying Light 2 is getting some DLC. Okay. We had a quick flash of some other games. Tortuga is a pirate game that I could have sworn was Sea of Thieves until the title card came up because it looked exactly like it. Marauders, don't know what that is. And Destiny 2 is also getting another expansion. Sonic Frontiers got a story trailer. So it's showing off the story of a Sonic game. I don't think is ever particularly important, but whatever, it's here. There's some kind of otherworldly creature who has shown up to destroy everything. Sonic is trying to prevent them from doing it. This particular person is of the opinion that it's Sonic who is in the wrong in this case. And they make a throwaway line somewhere where it's like, they say to Sonic, "You can't run forever," and I'm like, it's Sonic. It's his thing. His thing is running. I'm pretty sure he can run forever. Yeah. So there's some story stuff. There's some combat shown off. It feels a bit weak. Some of the other gameplay I've seen previously, it felt a bit weak. Hopefully they've improved that, because that was kind of a big issue with the previous kind of betas and playtests. And then he's got some kind of sickened arm thing that is a bit Breath of the Wild too. Anyway, that was Sonic Frontiers. Then we have a game called Under the Waves. So before you get too mad, it's developed by Parallel Studios and is unfortunately it's published by Quantic Dream. So we may never see this on the channel just because I'm against Quantic Dream. But it looks taking it from Soma, which we played recently, which was a big underwater creepy adventure thing. I'm kind of getting similar vibes from this, although obviously in Soma you couldn't swim or anything. You were like anchored to the bottom of the ocean, basically. It looks claustrophobic and it looks creepy and scary in some ways. I don't think that's the vibe it's going for. I think it's going more for like an exploratory kind of thing. You can see here that that's quite clearly a road that is underwater, heavily underwater. So clearly something has gone very, very wrong in this world. I think that's more of an exploratory kind of what the fuck is going on here kind of thing. We don't know too much about that though, or when it'll be out, or any of that kind of business, or how involved Quantic Dream are. Goat Simulator 3 is the sequel to Goat Simulator 1. They decided to not bother and just went with 3 instead. It is suitably full of just dumb physics bullshit. Return to Monkey Island got a kind of pretty funny marketing trailer from Stan. If you haven't played the Monkey Island series, Stan is an in-universe character who is essentially a secondhand salesman who tries to sell you various things throughout all the different games. He is very, very funny. He's one of the better characters in the series, and this is him trying to sell you on the idea of Return to Monkey Island and why you'd want to play it, because you get like clever puzzles, funny dialogue, revisiting old friends and places and stuff like that. There's a very funny marketing gimmick they're using. If you pre-order Return to Monkey Island, you will get horse armor for no reason. You'll get horse armor, like you may recall, Elder Scrolls Oblivion sold horse armor as DLC for way too much money, and it was kind of, it's largely seen as the start of cosmetic DLCs, basically. But you can, you see, you can get free horse armor with your pre-order. It does nothing. They're upfront about it. It does nothing. It just sits in your inventory being there and is very annoying. And you can only get it if you pre-order, which is very, very dumb, but very Monkey Island. Brandon Sanderson and the developers behind Subnautica were there to show off their new game Moonbreaker. Now, I don't have any particular interest in the gameplay of Moonbreaker. But I'm more interested in its presentation, because it is being presented as a minis war game. So something like Warhammer, I suppose, the original Warhammer. Warhammer and Warhammer 40k are all mini games. Like you have like the little plastic dudes, and you have your ruler out, and you're making sure your tape measure, and you're seeing if everyone has line of sight and that kind of thing. It's that kind of thing, but a video game. Now, I don't have any particular interest in this being a game. I'd rather play the actual minis. But one thing I did find interesting is there is a fully fleshed out miniature painting section to this game. Like, it's not like a small cosmetic thing. It's like a full on, we have modeled the physics of the paints, how they work. All of the models you're seeing here are painted with that tool. You know, everyone has access to it. Do they go into it here in this trailer? They might not. Or I skipped it, which is entirely possible. Do they do play after paint, or do they do paint after play? I have a feeling I skipped it. Yeah, here it is. So hang on, I'll let them get to that part. But this is like choosing your loadout. It doesn't appear like you need to be restricted to particular factions or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I got really into the painting stuff during lockdowns and pandemic and so on, so it's kind of weird to see it as like a full thing in a video game. I don't think I'll play the game, but it's a funny thing to see. Friends vs. Friends is a first-person PvP shooter with card mechanics. Trailer looks fun, but I don't think the game will be. Lies of P is a Bloodborne Pinocchio, basically. So pretend Pinocchio is now steampunk, and is very violent and very gothic, and you'll kind of get what Lies of P is going for. This trailer starts out with a kind of story thing. The world is going to shit. We need your help. Pinocchio, of all people. Geppetto is looking for your help. Geppetto in this seems to be a much bigger deal than he was in the actual story of Pinocchio. I have this feeling this person is meant to be the fairy godmother or whatever. There is some kind of plague going around. You'll see now this woman who's in the wheelchair has some deformity that may or may not be from the plague. Let me get into gameplay. I think there's a little bit of gameplay. This is showing off a bit of some of the different areas you'll be in. A bit of who I assume is Pinocchio. Some of his abilities. He has this... His left arm, at least, appears to be entirely mechanical. How much the rest of his body is, I don't know. I would assume all of it, since, you know, he's meant to be a puppet or whatever. There is further, like, proper gameplay videos out there. IGN have one, GameSpot have one, a couple of other ones do as well, where they show, like, unbroken... Well, sorry, not unbroken, but just the gameplay of the game, and it's Bloodborne. It's very much Bloodborne. They show a little bit. Jiminy Cricket appears to be your little beacon thing here, and it's all kind of weird to just think all these characters that... Well, at least the Disney cartoon is what I would have grown up with, but all of them being in this weird gothic horror thing is just very, very funny to me. But I'm looking forward to it. You know, I'll definitely give it a shot whenever it does come out. Again, we do not have a release date for it, so who knows? Who knows when it's coming out? Stranded Alien Dawn looks like your fairly typical survival game. Atlas Fallen. It looks like it's a Kingdom of Amalur kind of thing. To be honest, that's what I got from it. A lot of other people are saying like your standard action game, not your standard action, sorry, like a Soulsy type thing. But I'm not really getting Souls vibes from it. Anyway, the first part of the trailer is all CG. YouTube bitrate is going to shit because I have too many YouTube tabs open, but here we are. Shattered world, dead gods, people trying to live in it. These magical people have arisen up out of the sand and whatever have you. It's all fairly standard fantasy world building kind of stuff. Your characters appear to be extremely powerful, which would suggest your enemies are even more so. Again, this is all pre-rendered CG. There's a bit... So this kind of sand surfing that you're seeing there is actually in the gameplay. This is obviously only the CG trailer, but there is a quick burst of gameplay at the end of the trailer that I'm trying to get to without fucking up. Okay, so yeah, big behemoth guy comes out, and I think that's the end of the CG, pre-rendered CG portion of the trailer. And then very small bursts of game. This is what I was talking about. There is some actual sand surfing in game. I don't know. I'm getting the kind of the older like PS2 brawler adventure games kind of feel to it rather than a Soulsy kind of thing. I don't know where people are getting Souls from because it doesn't feel like that to me. Anyway, that's Atlas Fallen. Then Homeworld 3, which is a space dogfighting RTS, which I could not have gone to sleep any faster hearing those words. Genshin Impact 3.0 is out now, I think. Honkai Star Rail is another thing from the same developers. Genshin Impact is obviously doing really well for Hoyoverse, the developer. So they are going ahead with their next game, which is Genshin Impact in space. Or is what it feels like. It feels like futuristic Genshin Impact, more or less. It has the same art style. It looks like it's in the same engine. It is going to be, again, another big RPG. The question here is it going to be a big gacha live service thing like Genshin Impact is, or is it going to be a smaller linear single player RPG? I don't think they'll keep two live service games going because they'll just cannibalize each other. So I have a feeling this will be a much smaller game, much like story focused, but we don't know yet. But I do think that's what they're going to be going for with Honkai Star Rail, despite it having a very, very dumb name. High on Life is cringe video. So this is from Squanch Games, who is headed up by the guy behind Rick and Morty. And it definitely has that kind of comedy in it, that kind of writing. The guns, the different weapons all talk. They all have their own voices, all different personalities. And I can see it being funny the first time, but I can also see it being not funny the next time you play it, the next time after that. How much longevity, how much replay does it have in the selling point being the games or the guns talking to you rather than the guns feeling good to use, you know, like a first-person shooter should be. Like, the guns should feel good to use, and then anything else after that is kind of secondary, but the actual, anything the player is doing should feel good. And if that isn't working and the guns don't feel particularly great, or no, I should say feel, I haven't played it. They don't look like they feel particularly great. I don't know. There was a quick thing about a VR game, but they didn't show any gameplay, so who cares? Hardspace Shipbreaker is coming to consoles. Sorry, it's coming to current gen consoles. I think it's already out on previous gen. Hardspace Shipbreaker is a salvaging game set in space where you're breaking down like big spaceships for their parts and stuff like that. The Expanse, so Telltale's The Expanse had like a presentation kind of thing, because there was some interview stuff interspersed with some gameplay, but again, it is a Telltale thing, so it's a choose your own adventure set in the Expanse universe. The Expanse story has kind of gotten away from me because it jumped to different streaming services, and I'm not even sure where it is now. Amazon now, I think? I'm not even sure. But yeah, they jumped into a couple of interview points. They're showing off some different gameplay stuff like Zero G and that kind of thing. Obviously wouldn't have been in any other Telltale game as far as I'm aware. Or at least you weren't able to actually move around while it was happening. But that's still on its way. Still no release date for that. Then out of nowhere, Killer Clowns from Outer Space is getting a game. He's like, what's Killer Clowns from Outer Space? Good question. That was the question I asked too. I'm vaguely aware of the horror film. Like I think it's a 70s, 80s horror film called Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Where it is aliens that look like clowns and they go around killing people. That's the gist of it. I haven't seen the film, so I don't know. But they're gonna make a game out of it now too. It is what do they call them? Asymmetric PvP game where 3 players play as the Killer Clowns, and I think it's 5. It's either 5 or 7, I forget. Play as just humans trying to not get killed by the Killer Clowns, presumably. Yeah, there's the Killer Clowns anyway, and they shoot this guy, and that's that. Is there gameplay in this trailer? I forget. It might have been a different video that I watched that had actual gameplay in it. So you have humans, I don't know, it's this one. Humans and the Killer Clowns. We don't know what the difference is in their gameplay. Presumably the clowns have special abilities and the humans are all more or less the same. Who knows? Oh, stop. Scars Above is from Prime Matter. This was shown off last year very briefly. It was like a very quick, almost 10-second trailer. It was very short. But this is... It's kind of like a... It's probably going to be like an action RPG shooter. So if you can think... Probably a bit Returnal. But maybe with a bit more exploration focus. Returnal was all about, you know, very quick combat segments, very small amount of exploration where you would jump straight back into more combat arenas and so on. I do think Scars Above will probably focus a bit more on the adventuring exploration end of things and also have difficult shooting segments. There is a very quick burst of gameplay. There's a lot of trailers that are doing that. There's a very small amount of gameplay right at the end. So yeah, there is definitely some Returnal stuff going on here, but because it is such a close-in, over-the-shoulder kind of thing, I don't think it's going to be as fast-paced as Returnal. You can kind of tell the speed a game assumes you're going to play at by just how close the camera is to you. If the camera's really close, it's probably going to be a slow game. If the camera's really far away, it's going to be a fast game. Or it's a turn-based strategy game, probably. Weird Song is from former developers of all of these games, so Fallouts and Dragon Age, basically. So Bethesda's former BioWare people all coming together to make a pre-rendered CG trailer. Something Wicked are the names of the developers. This is kind of sort of setting up world building. It appears to be some kind of space age fantasy. So it's kind of space age medieval fantasy thing happening. Actually, I don't know where I'm getting the space age part from. Maybe it's just medieval fantasy and I was just focused too much on the Eclipse part of it. Anyway, no, it is very much medieval fantasy. I don't know where I got the space age bit from. But yeah, that's it. This is it. That's the trailer. Some weird shit is happening. Guys from Obsidian as well? I think so. Because was it New Vegas at the start? It would be, yeah. It would be Obsidian too because of New Vegas as well. How's it going, Anarchazma? Outer Worlds, yeah, that would have also been Obsidian. So yeah, we've got former Fallout, former Bethesda, former Obsidian, former BioWare people. They're just showing off, we're making a new game. Don't know what it's about yet, but we're making it. Age of Empires 4, it's getting an expansion, 2 new factions to play as. Gotham Knights got a story trailer-ish, where up until this point we weren't entirely sure who... We knew we were playing as the 4 Bat children, basically, but we didn't necessarily know what the deal was. Why are we playing as them? What's the problem? We knew the Court of Owls are involved in some way, but they're not particularly well-known Batman villains, so obviously they need better-known Batman villains to sell the game a little bit. Doing fine for now, but not for long. Oh no. What's up? What's up, Hazama? So we have Harlequin, who is wearing less and less of her actual Harlequin outfit. She isn't even wearing makeup anymore, like the clown makeup. She's obviously wearing makeup. She's not wearing the clown makeup. Mr. Freeze is in here somewhere, and Clayface is in here somewhere, and this is the Court of Owls guys. You know, again, they're not a particular. This Clayface, they're not a particularly well-known Bat villain. And whereas the rest of them are probably a bit better known. Harley Quinn in particular. Clayface maybe? I don't think too many people really know Clayface that well. Outside of, obviously, big Batman fans would probably know him better. Yeah, so that's that. Big, again, CG trailer. Not a whole lot of gameplay going on there. Where Winds Meet. Actually, Gotham Knights wasn't a CG trailer. It was in-engine, but no actual gameplay. Where Winds Meet. Big action game. Focusing on the kind of wuxia Chinese cinema. So wuxia stuff would be like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, House of Flying Daggers, that kind of thing. The thing where they kind of defy gravity and sort of fly around the place fighting each other. That. But a video game. So that's what they're going for here with Where Winds Meet. Is very emotive, I think. I'm not sure the word I want to use here. Trailer. Setting up. Again, there's a small burst of gameplay at some point. I'll have to skip ahead to find it. Alright, here we are here. you kind of do get a bit of Ghost of Tsushima just walking around. Just in this particular area, just reminds me of a hub area of Ghost of Tsushima. How much the game will actually play like that, I don't know. We'll get into the actual combat stuff, so there's a bit more stealthy elements here. There's a bit of Assassin's Creed as well, I suppose. It looks really cool. It looks really fun. And I'm hoping it comes out soon. But I don't think it is. I think it's a while before we'll see it. Yeah, more of that. More of that, please. It's a fun looking game. Anyway, that's where winds meet. Hideo Kojima is starting a podcast. Okay. Fair enough. I was like, I would tune in, except Jeff Keighley is also going to have a segment on it, so that meant I have no interest in that podcast. Because I kind of have a feeling of what the podcast will be about. Park Beyond is spiritual successor to Theme Park. I have no particular interest in it, but there you go. Mini Cooper are at Gamescom for no reason, showing off a Pokemon car, of all things. Okay. Makes sense. Warhammer Darktide is another co-op first-person shooter. There's been a few Warhammer something Tide games. They're all fairly similar. They just focus on different factions of the Warhammer universe. Blacktail looks like a first-person archery kind of Slavic magic myth kind of thing. So we have these two characters. If YouTube bitrate will catch up anytime soon. I think it's focusing on the Baba Yaga myth. Actual gameplay wise, it's like first person archery with some witch magic kind of stuff. There's not a whole lot shown off in the trailer, but I am getting a pretty cool otherworldly kind of witch, somewhat horror kind of element to it, which is really nice. And there's a dichotomy between whether you'll be there's a moralistic bent to the game, if you're going to be a good witch or a bad witch. Phantom Hellcat didn't show off too much, but as Imran Khan says in his article there, it has hit stops and air dashes, so I'm probably all aboard, and I would have to concur, because it doesn't take much to get me interested in your game. Does the combat look fun, melee slashy stuff, and can I do an air dash? And we're done. I'm in. I don't need any more. Do I not know Slavic culture, or is it just random fantasy elements? I guess you're not, because you don't have the background audio and whatever. For the trailer, it probably doesn't come across too well, but it is focused mostly on Eastern European kind of stuff. At least that's the vibe I'm getting from it. I could be wrong, but that is the vibe I'm getting from it. Anyway, that's Phantom Hellcat. Don't know a whole lot about the story. There might be a Phantom of the Opera thing going on there with the different masks and the stage and what have you. Doff Romantic was just more or less reminding people it still exists. I think this was in a Nintendo Indie World Showcase kind of thing, where you just put down these little tiles to make up different islands, different areas, and that's kind of it. It's just more of like a meditative, chill game where you just build up stuff, try to connect tiles to kind of tiles that are out in the distance, and you just build up your own little land and have fun. And it's out soon, at the end of next month. The Outlast Trials. So Outlast, you may be familiar with, is a first-person horror series. It's the game where you have a night vision camcorder taped to your face, basically, for the whole game. Which I never got the appeal of, because it destroys any kind of art direction that your game would have had if you're stuck having to have this camcorder on your face for the whole time. But the Outlast Trials is more of a multiplayer-focused game. How exactly is it? I think there's a bit of PvP and then a bit of PvE as well. I think there's a bit of players are all against each other, but they can also help each other out to get past different puzzles and stuff like that. And I think there is one or two players that are playing a kind of director role to kind of mess around with the player, spawn enemies in different places and things like that. So there's a bit of the Evil Dead game going on as well. Obviously, that's absolutely not my bag, baby. I'm definitely not focused on PvP multiplayer and anything to do with leveling up characters and season passes and that kind of thing. It's just, I can't think of anything worse, honestly. The finals, again, this looks like a first-person shooter game show kind of thing, and I'm only kind of highlighting it. I don't have any particular interest in the game myself, but I'm only kind of highlighting it because this is the game that replaced Arc Raiders, which we showed off a while from Embark Studio. So Arc Raiders was going to be this PvE kind of thing where a bunch of people would all work together to take down these big giant robot mech things, and it had kind of a Monster Hunter vibe to it, except they were mechs. And they have decided to swap places with this game because apparently this development of this game was going ahead much better, so they decided to go ahead with this. That's kind of all. The only reason I'm kind of putting it out there. It jumps between actually expanding on Murkoff plot they had in the beginning and the most random stuff they could put in there. Is this for the Outlast trials? I don't think it delves too heavily into the actual Outlast story. I mean, Outlast 2 did nothing, right? For the story of Outlast 1? I don't think it was connected. To be fair, I didn't play the games myself. I only watched LPs of other people playing it, and not everyone stops to read all the documents, so I guess there's that. Anyway, the last trailer, the big, but one more thing, was Dead Island 2, or Dead Island 2 as I've been calling it. This was announced in 2013, I think, and has been restarted multiple times in development. It's changed publishers, it's changed developers a couple of times. This was leaked on Amazon a while ago that they were making a Dead Island 2. But again, they've been making a Dead Island 2 for quite a while. This is going to be set in LA, but it is the kind of standard first-person melee zombie game. You know, I think you probably have an idea of what you're getting into. If you've played Dead Island 1, it doesn't look like it's going to be any different. Just, it looks nicer. That's probably about it. Maybe it'll run better. Dead Island 1 did not run well. Hopefully it'll run a little bit better. If you played Dying Light recently, the melee combat will probably be similar enough. Dead Island focused a bit more on melee stuff instead of gunplay, because the bullets were hard to come by, kind of thing. But yeah, it's fairly irreverent, it's fairly comedic. Zombies are played mostly for jokes, kind of thing. It's mostly like a sandbox, have fun killing zombies in a stupid way. And that was Gamescom's opening night live show, where Jeff the Doritos Pope showed off a bunch of different games from different European-focused developers. But Gamescom is a week-long event, so there were plenty of other games that didn't make it into opening night live that also showed off a bunch of their stuff. So I'm not done with the YouTube poor bitrate trailers. So we're going to start with Mineko's Night Market. Kind of showing this one off because I really liked the art style. It has a really cozy, cartoon, like, feel-good vibe to it. I think ostensibly you're Mineko, presumably. Maybe not. Thinking about it now, I actually don't think your character's probably called Mineko. It's probably a different character, because Neko means cat. Anyway, you are moved to a new town with your dad, and it seems that you eventually recruit a bunch of cat friends, going about helping them evade FBI custody for some reason, not entirely sure why. And, you know, you have a gang of cat friends walking around with you. And you have a cat on your jacket, and there's some kind of cat god thing happening too. You fall into a ravine, and this bigger cat guy, who is either a very large cat or a guy in a cat suit, rescues you. But either way, it looks fun and cozy, and that's kind of why I wanted to highlight it. What is this? Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop is... it's hard to explain. Well, it's not particularly hard to explain. It's kind of like, or it sounds like it will be a sort of procedural repair game. So most of this, vast majority of this trailer is just animated kind of cartoon show thing. But you are playing you're not playing Uncle Chop. You're playing a different guy who will basically repair rockets that come into his junkyard, if you like. Particularly like this guy, what does he say? I skipped back too far. Anyway, you use different tools to kind of... some dickhead in an orange ship around me. Very nice. So you've got, like, it's fairly comedic. You know, you're just trying to fix up their rockets, probably make money on how fast you do it, you know, how efficient you are on it, and so on. Is there an actual story? I don't know. That's Uncle Chop, I believe. And maybe he fires you if you don't do a good enough job. Unreliable kid narrators evading government custody. With supporting cat characters. Yeah, it's fine. I'm sure it'll go well. And we had Wordless. Now, this is by... I'm trying to remember who the developer is, because it's a developer from a game that I liked. I think it's Coatsink. I think it's Coatsink and Thunderful. Thing is, I can't remember what Coatsink developed. I knew it was something that I liked, but I don't remember what it was. Anyway, it is, as you can tell, a 2D side-scrolling platform fun time thing that I love. I can't not like these kind of things. The animation looks really nice, even though the character is barely there. But it looks flash, it looks cool. I'm almost certain there's an air dash somewhere in this trailer. And as I said, if your game has an air dash in it, I am probably going to play. So there's that. Focus on combat. There's a lot of different weaponry you've seen there. There's the sword and shields. There's a spear there at some point. There's a bow and arrow. You know, there's some interesting combat stuff going on there. Ghost World, I think? Ghost World's film. Ghost Song looks like a body horror Metroid. Basically, this is the way I would describe it. You are character in armor with a buster arm weapon, fighting horrible grotesqueries that are either parasites in human bodies or have mutated human bodies or something. But either way, it's kind of body horror, head explosions kind of thing. It feels a bit slow and clunky from the trailer, but I do like the art style quite a bit. Like, there's some horrible shit happening here with enemies growing and becoming horribly giant. There's one later where a human torso separates and they become like 12 feet tall or something. I think I've skipped it. Anyway, that's Ghost Song. Then we had The Last Hero of Nostalgaia is a kind of... getting some Strong the Fall vibes, but this one's brighter. Is that for Wordless? Oops. Yeah, The Last Hero of Nostalgaia is very much a tongue-in-cheek Dark Souls. So it's a kind of... it's like they want to go back to the old games of like pixels and stuff like that, and they don't want to have all these really hard games, and you're like, no, this is the way of the future kind of thing for the games. Oh, for Ghost Song, okay. I haven't played The Fall, so I don't know. Anyway, the trailer itself is fairly comedic. It's kind of, you know, telling you that you're like this great hero and we need your help and so on. And there's another character in the trailer is like, no, we don't need your help, stay away, I hate heroes kind of thing. But yeah, that's that. I don't know. It seems like a kind of fun parody, I guess, of the Souls type games. Fall of Porcupine has a lot of Night in the Woods to it. Like, it feels like it could almost be Night in the Woods too. You are this pigeon doctor who's landed in Porcupine, I guess, this little town that also has other anthropomorphic animals. You're a junior doctor, so just out of your residency, and you're thrown into this hospital that's not doing particularly great, and you'll have to do like doctor puzzle stuff, I guess. But there's also like an adventure choose your own adventure kind of thing going around outside of it. Yeah, again, art style looks fun. Some of the writing looks fairly comedic, and the puzzles all look kind of interesting. Like, they don't seem like they're too easy. And then I guess they have these couple of mini games in and out, in and around the game. This is indeed Night in the Woods. Yeah, I know, right? It looks almost... I almost thought it was Night in the Woods 2, to be honest. But no, it's not. It's called Fall of Porcupine, and it takes place in the fall. But the town might also be, on the outs. So this is double meaning there. Smart. It's almost like they really thought about that title. Miasma Chronicles. Not entirely sure what kind of game this is. It looks like it is a... The devs are different, for my surprise. Yeah, I know. That's why I was like... Did they just look at Night in the Woods and go, hey, that's our art style, let's just do that. So this is from the guys behind Mutant Year Zero. It looks really nice. It is a apocalyptic future kind of thing. So heavy inspiration, I take it. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, Night in the Woods was pretty well critically received. Miasma Chronicles is some horrible shit has happened to the Earth in the future, and it is up to you to save mankind or something, all that kind of jazz. I'm really only looking at it because it looks really nice. Like, it looks very pretty, despite it being horrible grunge and what have you, but it looks really good. You have at least these two characters, and then a third character I think joins your party at some point. There is a bit of, like, isometric old school CRPG stuff going on, particularly in the combat. The combat looks like it's a turn-based, almost XCOM looking kind of thing. Does it skip into the gameplay at some point here? So yeah, it looks like you've got, you zoom in for when your characters are actually doing something, but for the most part, I think it'll be fairly top-down, isometric looking thing. You've got your robot who has a bit of an attitude problem, your main character who's your standard Shoda character, and then Ciri from Witcher is just slumming it. Changed her name, but it's just quite clearly Ciri from The Witcher. But anyway, so yeah, I think it's gonna be like an XCOM. Maybe not XCOM, mightn't be the right word for it, but like a top-down turn-based strategy thing, as opposed to like a over-the-shoulder shooter type deal. Okay, so I left this one to the end because while I like the idea of what's going on here, and you guys won't be subjected to the audio of this trailer, and you should thank me for that because it's not very good. So this is Wanted Dead, which has a lot of older brawler games to it. So there's a bit of the Ninja Gaiden, the 3D Ninja Gaidens here. There's a little bit of that. So the trailer's giving me like a lot of misgivings though, because you're not hearing at the audio. The character is playing the same audio clip like over and over and over again. Like every time he kills an enemy, he says practically the same thing constantly. And this video is like 5 minutes long, so that's obviously not a good start. You can forgive the bitrate. The actual video doesn't look this bad. It's YouTube just doesn't like me today, and you're also watching me watch YouTube on Twitch, so the compression is obviously not going to be very good. But anyway, I do like the presentation. I do like how fast-paced it is. The enemies are not particularly aggressive, which would suggest that maybe they're either playing this on easy mode or it's a dev build or something like that. Can potentially be forgiven for something on that end. But again, we don't know. Is the actual final game going to be with the enemies so not interested in attacking the player? And hopefully they will tone down how often the player says the exact same soundbite every 2 seconds. If you have watched any of ProZD's skits, he has one skit where it's like a JRPG character, and he stabs a guy, and he's like, "I think that enemy got the point." And it's like, "Ha, very funny." And then every time he keeps saying, "I think that enemy got the point," and over and over, and eventually you just get pissed off with him saying it all the time. It's that, but even more condensed. Because he just keeps saying the same thing. Anyway, if you can get the kind of old 3D Ninja Gaiden feel to it, maybe not quite as difficult as the old Ninja Gaidens, but there's something here. Like, I do like the aesthetic, I do like the speed, but there are some misgivings. So hopefully they can iron those out before the game actually launches. So that was all new games to me at least, but there were plenty of games that I'd seen before or have been announced before that just got new trailers. So Forspoken, that has recently been delayed into next year, got a fairly lengthy gameplay trailer, so showing off a lot of the traversal and a lot of combat. And my previous idea that this looked a lot like Infamous is correct, because it fucking is Infamous. So I'm gonna skip ahead past the story stuff. Skip. Get to the part people care about. Okay, so we're into combat stuff. So your character, Frey, has a lot of different abilities. You can see there in the bottom right, there's some kind of triangle thing going on here, but you can also swap out into different elements, it looks like. It's like fire, water, earth, etc. You know, fairly typical. Traversal stuff is a bit nuts. She's got kind of skipping, and then she has this kind of lasso harpoon thing happening. So it looks like these fire kind of bramble looking things have a particular element associated with them. Water, I guess, to stop you from taking fall damage, maybe. This is very Assassin's Creed with this kind of telescope of show me all the different activities I can do in this open world. That's clearly what they're going for. Big open map game, as they're called for Ubisoft kind of games. Go here, do a thing. Go here, do another activity. Go here, do some other activity. And we'll never reuse this area ever again. You only use the area once. But yeah, you can see, like, bottom right again, it's changed color. There are different symbols now. What does any of that mean? Dunno. Looks like there's cooldowns. Some of the abilities seem to build up as you use other abilities. They've changed to a green one now. There's a lot of different stuff happening here. And it looks very nice. Again, YouTube and Twitch compression combined are going to make it look horrible, but in full view, when you don't have hundreds of tabs open, it looks really nice. But yeah, so there's a lot of combat. It does feel very Infamous with, like, more bells and whistles, basically. I don't know about the random numbers popping off enemies. I always felt kind of weird about that outside of full RPGs. It kind of feels strange in an action game. It feels very strange in a shooter. IMO, you know, in my opinion, it doesn't feel right. Anyway, that's only half that video. If you want to see more of it, there's more showing off traversal and combat and stuff there as well. Lightyear Frontier was shown off again at an Indies showcase at some point. It is Stardew Valley, but you're in a mech, basically. You're in like a farming mech, basically. You've got this kind of sonic gun. You've got like a hoover to hoover up your different crops and what have you. But, you know, if you played Stardew Valley, but you were walking around in a Titanfall mech, that's kind of what's happening here. I didn't see anything where you affix a gun to this mech or anything like that, so I think it is very much an agriculture mech, which is fun. We only saw like a pre-rendered CG trailer last time. We didn't see any gameplay. We're seeing some gameplay now. You can customize your mech. You can change what's on its arms. I think you need to actually load it out with things. I don't think it swaps them. Like, I think whatever you have a loadout for, it has that, and that's it. And then you need to go back into the garage to put more things on it and that kind of thing. But yeah, it has the kind of Stardew Valley Slime Rancher thing, is you build crops, sell them, so that you can build more things, make something with that new thing, sell that, and so on, and gradually work your way up the technology chain. 9 Years of Shadows. 9 Years of Shadows has a really, really gorgeous art style. So the first bit of this trailer is an animated, just setting you up the characters. This character, your main character, has a halberd, heavily armored. There's a bit of a almost Sailor Moon, Saint Seiya thing happening, like magical girl transformations, which is what's happening there. It's pretty cool. I'll give them that. But they do get fully armored up. But we're going to skip into the actual gameplay bits. So gameplay-wise, it's Castlevania, more or less. You have different armor types available to you, or maybe you collect them as the game goes on, where you have different abilities. So you have mermaid abilities, I guess, with the water one. The best example of that, Winx. Yeah, right. Yeah, anyway. So, what is this? I keep forgetting the name of this. It's 9 something. 9 Years of Shadows. So yeah, Castlevania, side-scrolly combat stuff, different armors. That's a very Voltron-looking helmet, and so on. The different armors have different abilities, and they can be, it looks like they can be swapped out. Sailor Moon Cross Castlevania, yes please. How's it going, Toon Train Inc? I know, right? It looks gorgeous. The music, which you're not getting because I mute all these trailers because Content ID. You also have I missed that bit, but you also have a friendly teddy bear companion who hangs out with you and absolutely does not belong in these environs, but he's there with you. He's your teddy friend. It looks really nice. It's very colorful, and there's a bit later where they just swap, like this stuff. They just change into the 3 different armors there in the space of 5 seconds. Like, that's great. I can't wait to play something like that. The issue is I think it's PC only right now, and I don't have a good PC, so that sucks. Hopefully it does come to console at some point, or I get a good PC, one or the other. Hopefully the good PC part, because there's some PC games I'd like to play. Gungrave Gore is a big throwback to old PS2 titles. PS2 third-person shooters. Before everything became aim-down sights, before everything became over-the-shoulder, there used to be... I don't know how to describe them. They were just shooters in 3D. So yeah, there's going to be German subtitles. Remember, this is Gamescom. It is focused mostly on European developers. Gungrave Gore is a sequel to Gungrave something. I don't know. There have been a few Gungraves. PC Boys triumph once again. God damn it. But yeah, Gungrave is lots and lots of guns, lots and lots of bullets, lots and lots of gore. That's why it's called Gungrave Gore, I guess. It's got a kind of vampire leaning to it. There's definitely like supernatural elements. Most of your friendly characters all have special abilities. Evil characters have special abilities and so on. It looks very pretty. At least in these kind of CG asides, they look very good. The actual in-game doesn't look quite as good as you could see, but it still looks fine. It still, despite it being a kind of dark game, it still has a lot of vibrant color to it, which is always appreciated. But anyway, Gungrave Gore is guns. Guns, 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 and more guns. Lots of it. Wulong, Fallen Dynasty is Dark Souls in China, more or less. This is from the developers of Nioh, which I played very briefly on the channel, and I am planning to get back to it at some point. But this is from them. So they've made Nioh. They made Nioh 2. They randomly decided to make Strangers of Paradise, the Chaos game. And now they've gone, you know what? Let's leave Japan for a bit and go to China. So Wulong, Fallen Dynasty. It does feel like if Nioh was like Dark Souls, then Wulong is like Sekiro. You know, it's a much faster paced. Actual developers said there is no stamina bar. Players have a morale bar instead, and so the higher your morale is, the better your attacks will land, the more aggressive you can be, and then similarly, enemy morale bars, same thing. They're more aggressive the higher their morale is. Lower their morale is, the less aggressive they are, and that kind of thing. It certainly seems a lot faster paced. Like, Nioh is fast paced anyway, but that even seems even faster than that. But yeah, that's Wulong on the Dynasty, and then there is Atomic Heart. Atomic Heart seems like it's been coming out for a million years. But maybe it might actually come out at some point. So Atomic Heart is a lot of people would describe it as Soviet Bioshock, basically. It does have the same kind of dual combat system in like Bioshock has, in that you have guns and you have magic powers, basically. And Atomic Heart is much the same first-person shooter. You do have fancy guns, but then you do also have some kind of mechanical nanite control thing. I'm not sure what's going on with the unicorn ladies. I don't think I want to know, to be honest. It is set in a kind of somewhat futuristic, but also somehow in the past Soviet thing. Oh, gross. I can feel that somehow. Your character does have plasmids or magic powers in some way. They've got a telekinesis thing, they've got an electrocution thing, they've got some kind of liquid nitrogen attack. You're also fighting enemies that are Superman, more or less, can shoot the sun out of their eyes. It looks fairly fast-paced, kind of a shooter type thing. Bioshock Infinite was certainly a kind of fast-paced shooter. I wouldn't think the Bioshock 1 and 2 were particularly fast-paced. But yeah, that's Atomic Heart. Again, it's been coming out for 1,000 years, it feels like, at this point. We still don't have a release date. This trailer still doesn't have a release date. but it does look really nice. Hopefully it comes out soon. Okay, last of the trailers for now, at least. There'll be more later. So The Devil in Me is the last Dark Pictures anthology game for Season 1, at least. They have said there'll be a Season 2. I mean, I've been enjoying them, so I hope there is a Season 2. The Devil in Me it sounds like it's going to be an escape room game kind of thing. You are sent to a replica of H.H. Holmes's hotel. H.H. Holmes is an American serial killer. I think he's believed to have been like the first one or the first recorded one or something like that. And he built a hotel, and all of the rooms were kind of set up as Saw rooms, basically. You know, some of them had gas traps, some of them had like trapdoors, horrible shit being done to people. And you are in a replica of that home. Someone is like, hey, do you want to film a spooky thing for your show or whatever? Don't worry, it's perfectly safe. It's not safe. Not safe at all. Not talking to developers, on some of their interviews, it's going to be much longer than most of the other Dark Pictures games and considerably gorier than all of them as well. So yeah, it seems they're taking some of the criticisms of the other Dark Pictures games on board in that they were too short, and hardly anybody dies in them. It's surprisingly difficult to die in the Dark Pictures games. So hopefully they'll change that. There are some returning actors as well, so keeping with the anthology idea that there are some returning actors too. So that'll be interesting. Melwyn and I have been playing through the Dark Pictures games, so we are hoping that we'll be able to get House of Ashes in before Devil in Me comes out, but we will see. Okay, and then outside of Gamescom, there was some other news. So the PSVR 2 has a release window. It's going to be early 2023. What does early 2023 mean? I don't know. Is it going to be the first half of 2023? The first quarter of 2023? The first 12th of 2023? I don't know, but that's it. They have a release date for it, and that's all the news. There's still nothing about what games are going to be coming out for, what price structure is there going to be for it, etc. We know there are games. There are going to be 20 games allegedly coming out at launch. We know one of them is Resident Evil Village. It's VR port. But they're very much been drip feeding news about this, and it's really annoying at this point. If you could just give me the price I need to have in my account so I can buy it. Thanks. Okay, some Kickstarter news. So Wild Arms and Shadow Hearts creators are teaming up for the first double Kickstarter. So Wild Arms and Shadow Hearts are two JRPG series that are kind of overlooked by a lot of even fans of JRPGs, myself included, because I haven't played either of them. I've wanted to, I just haven't gotten around to it. But the two developers are going to team up, and they're going to have a kind of collaborative Kickstarter. So, their new game, so the Wild Arms one will be Armed Fantasia, and the Shadow Hearts one will be Penny Blood. They're not, like, they don't own the IP for either of those, but so they're more like spiritual successors. The Kickstarter will be starting August 29th, so if you're watching this live, that's tomorrow. If you're not watching this live, then it's August 29th, 2022. The core connective tissue is in both games are that JRPG fans love. It's hard to say how many people played both, but by combining both games into one campaign, the goal is to raise awareness for both titles. Neither have been as popular as a Final Fantasy, though this is two creators helping each other in an effort to both achieve success. Shadow Hearts discs are crazy expensive now. I know, like I've seen people who are trying to like do speedruns or do let's plays and we're like, why the fuck is this game so expensive? So there's some quick kind of screens. I think there'll be a proper trailer when the Kickstarter actually launches. But you can see this is gorgeous. Right, it's a beautiful looking game. If it does actually look like this when it's playing, very much please. So Wild Arms is a kind of Western punk, I think is what it's called. So futuristic, but also the Wild West kind of thing. And then Penny Blood or Shadow Hearts is like Victorian Gothic kind of thing. So while clearly a darker game, because it's like it has more of a Gothic style to it, it's still really pretty. You know, if they if they can stick to this. It does appear that they will be sharing engine, they'll be sharing staff and so on, so that's why they're doing a collaborative Kickstarter. People can choose to pledge for one game or both, if you like. If they pledge for one title, they'll also add to a combo meter, this is very video gamey, that affects stretch goals for both games, some of which involve content and talent being shared between them. So that'll be things like the composer will work on both games, or a composer for one game will make a song for the other game, or they might share concept artists together or stuff like that. We'll know more when the Kickstarter actually launches, but disclosure, I will probably back this. It does look interesting, and those games do look very pretty. Okay, but that's all games that are on the way. You can't play them right now, but what about games that you can play right now? So, new releases for this week. That's right, we're back to YouTube destroying the bitrate. Soul Hackers 2, sequel to Soul Hackers, which was a spin-off of the Shin Megami Tensei JRPG series. That was a lot of words. I don't even remember when the first Soul Hackers came out, but it's quite some time now. The idea here is you can think Persona 5. You'd be close enough because it's the same universe, but this is more of a digital AI construct focused kind of thing, whereas Persona and Shin Megami Tensei tend to have more of a demons and like angels mythology sort of thing going on. But it's the same kind of game. It's a turn-based JRPG with colorful and fun characters. Some of the previews have been a bit mixed on it. I think people who are fans of turn-based JRPGs in general seem to like it, and it's more the appeal to new people. I think I guess they're not willing to put up with as much shit as other JRPG fans are. But I don't know. I'd be interested to play this. It will be on the channel at some point. I just don't know when. It'll be a while. I still got to get through all the Xenoblades, so it'll be a bit. And then Midnight Fight Express. So this trailer is, I think this is just a full animated launch trailer, so there's no actual gameplay in this trailer, which is unfortunate. But Midnight Fight Express is it's almost like a throwback to like Streets of Rage, Double Dragon, that kind of thing. Final Fight. Where you are one dude, melee combat against the whole city, it seems like. But there is also this kind of gunplay. There's a bit of the John Wick, very targeted shooting, very efficient stuff to it, but it also doesn't particularly take itself too seriously. Nasty. But yeah, it's a fairly heavily focused melee combat thing. So you can kind of think Sifu, but maybe not quite as hard. I don't think it'll be as difficult as Sifu, but I think there might be a bit of fun to it. So yeah, again, that will be on the channel. It might be on the channel next week if the coin flip goes our way. And the Epic Games free game for this week is Ring of Pain. So I have started showcasing the free game. I don't know why. I felt like doing it. Anyway, Ring of Pain I've never heard of. I don't know what kind of game it is. It appears to be a card game and also a roguelike, I think is what they're going for. Enter the Ring of Pain, a roguelike card crawler, where encounters come to you. Each step around the ring, a dire decision. Go for the loot or backstab a creeping horror. Choose your gear wisely to survive and discover the secrets of the Ring of Pain. Well, okay. Knock yourself out, I guess. Alright. It is now, unfortunately, it is time to talk about the worst part of video games, the video game industry. So, PQube Games, who are a UK publisher, have been accused of exploiting developers' heritage for funding. So, PQube Games explosive exploiting two studios, so Toga, I don't know, and Mojiken Studio, who are both Indonesian developers, are making a game called A Space for the Unbound. Has been delayed because of these allegations against PQube, who were meant to be publishing it. They allege that they used the developer's Indonesian heritage to receive a diversity grant from a well-known platform, which I think is PlayStation. But I'm not sure. I think it's PlayStation. The Diversity Fund was a grant fund intended to help underrepresented developers, especially during the pandemic. However, instead of giving those funds to the developers as the grant was intended, PQube Games intentionally withheld information about the grant and used it as leverage for their own commercial gain. So this is like publisher meant to be reaching out to get this grant and should have forwarded it on to the developer, but they didn't. They held on to it themselves. Rather than paying the grant money to us, PQ Games hid the facts about the grant's award and added it as a recoupable minimum guarantee and then used it to negotiate the increase of their revenue share. Not great. Not a good look. The two studios only uncovered the true amount of the fund and its purpose in March of this year. So they would have applied for the grant in August 2020, but they only figured out that this had happened like earlier this year. As a consequence, the two studios have terminated their publishing agreement with PQ Games, but PQ Games are refusing to hand over publishing control on console platforms. So they're still fine to publish on PC, because I guess they retain those rights, but they don't have the rights for whatever console they would go to, so PlayStation, Xbox, Switch. Ooh, yeah. We clearly cannot trust PQ Games nor continue to work together for the release of A Space for the Unbound, as PQ Games has fallen considerably short not only of reasonable decency but also of their obligations to us due to these predatory practices. So that is from those two studios. PQ Games, for their part, did respond to requests for comment, and for their part they have said, "We have honoured all obligations of our publishing agreement and have supported Togue Productions at every stage of product development throughout their delays and difficulties. This support has included offering significant further funding over and above grant funding to support development, porting, and marketing." That is what a publisher is meant to do. Toge Productions has sought for some time to unilaterally enforce unreasonable revised terms to our agreement, and it is disappointing that, as a result of not achieving that, and despite PQbe's significant efforts to accommodate this, they have sought to deal with the matter in this way. We will respond through the appropriate channels, which means this is going to court, and we probably won't hear too much about it for quite some time. So there's a bit of a he said, she said situation going on here. Because the well-known platform wasn't named, they're obviously not going to step forward to say anything about it or what the purpose of the grant is. We can't look up what the grant is because we don't know which platform it was from. So this is something we probably won't see the end of until, I don't know, a year, 2 years from now. But it does mean that the game itself probably won't hit consoles for a very long time because of that, which is a bit of a shame. Toge Productions, I've played their previous game, which is Coffee Talk, which is a visual novel thing where you are a barista to a rotating customer base of various fantasy characters. There's like elves, succubi, aliens and stuff. There's all sorts of different things that show up. It's a fun game, so it's a bit of a shame that, well, I mean, they still have PC publishing rights, so, you know, they can still get around it that way. Okay, in shitty DRM news, Denuvo are launching a Switch emulator protection at behest of publishing partners. So, if you are not familiar with Denuvo DRM, they are the reason your PC game runs bad. They are a middleware group who essentially are trying to prevent piracy of PC games. So there's a thing that will run as your game runs to check that this is a, what's the word, official copy of the game and not a pirated copy of the game. There's some DRM as well on like PlayStation, Xbox games, but not to this extent. Denuvo is very heavy-handed about this kind of thing. So this service that they're setting up will basically it's an attempt to stop people emulating Switch games on PC or any other platform where it could play. Now, while there are obviously piracy concerns around that, because you could just distribute the emulated file and that would be a way to pirate the game. On the other hand, there are people who do dump their legitimately bought Switch games onto PC because people often do this in order to achieve better frame rates and resolution than the Switch can provide natively. So I've bought this game, I own this game now, but it doesn't run well on the Switch, and I would rather play it on something it does run well on, so I'm going to emulate it on my big beefy PC. And that should be a legitimate use of your property, because you bought the game, right? Not according to Denuvo, fuck you. For Denuvo's part, they have confirmed that this is not a partnership with Nintendo itself. This is at the behest of other third-party partners, so EA, Ubisoft, Activision, etc. Those kind of partners. How well this will actually work? Probably not that well at all, because DRM... Problem with DRM is that it's whack-a-mole, right? As soon as DRM comes out, as soon as this kind of software comes out, it's very quickly cracked. And then the crack lasts out there for a very long time. People get their games. People get the piracy that they want out of the game. And it takes a while before Denuvo or whoever make a new piece of software that can fix it and patch over that crack, and then they just crack it again. It's like, there is no software that is 100% secure. You'll always find a hole somewhere, and people who are dedicated enough will find a way through it. And Denuvo have done a good job of pissing off PC gamers in general, because even legitimately bought copies that have Denuvo on it run worse than the pirated copy. Like, it only impacts legitimate customers. Incredibly inefficient and intrusive DRM, as Doom Train Inc. says. Yes, it's not good. Like, a lot of... Is it mentioned here? It's mentioned somewhere in this article by Ken Shepard, but, like, while people, like, players rather, will try to strip out Denuvo DRM from their games, there are many, many developers who have patched it out of the game due to how badly it affects the runtime. Because a lot of the times, it's the publisher that mandates that the DRM goes in. It's rarely the developer that goes for it. And it's also usually done late in development, like almost right at the end, right before the game goes gold. They'll go, okay, let's put the DRM in there. And then they've already passed their QA stuff. They've already passed their lot checks. They've already passed their localization things. They're not going to rerun all of that. So they just, just put it out. And then, lo and behold, the game runs like shit because the DRM is tanking the frame rate of the game. Or it's tanking its computational power or whatever. And the developer's like, our game's running like shit and we're getting bad reviews. This is going to affect the bottom line for the publisher as well, because you won't make as much money off this game. Take the DRM out. And that's what happens. Like, give it a week and the DRM is gone. Anyway, whatever. They're paying for it. I guess they'll get it. PlayStation 5 price increase announced everywhere except the US. What's that about? Why is everywhere else getting a price increase except the United States? So it's going up by £30 sterling in the UK, which is about €50 in Europe, which will push it up to somewhere around €550 for the disc version, and about €100 less, or 100 sterling less for the disc-less version. Also going up in Japan, China, Australia, Mexico, and Canada, but not the United States of America. Why? So the reason given by Jim Ryan, American PlayStation boss, just putting it out there. Price hikes this morning are blamed on high global inflation rates, which apparently don't affect the United States. No, they're not having an inflation issue right now? Sure they are, but okay. As well as adverse currency trends, there it is, that's the real reason, impacting consumers and creating pressures on many industries. So the adverse currency trends basically is, right now, the dollar is doing better than most other currencies. Which means if they keep the number parity, which is what they've always done, because if they have, this is $500 we're going to make it €500 as well. Right now, previously, they would have made money on that exchange because the euro was doing better than the dollar. Now, because it's the other way around, they lose money on that. So they're pushing the price up. So, fuck you, PlayStation. Okay, I already have a PlayStation 5, but whatever. That's still some shitty corporate centric stuff happening there. It's not a great look, but at the same time, Sony are having difficulty filling demand for the PlayStation 5. So even with this price increase, I don't think it will actually affect the demand all that much. You know, people want a PS5. So I don't like, even with this extra amount of money, I don't think it'll make a huge difference. I don't think it'll make a dent in their demand because they can't actually supply enough consoles. Anyway, in slightly better news, Smash Bros. Director Masahiro Sakurai has started his own YouTube channel, and it's actually pretty good. He's talking about a lot of game development stuff. He has one about the beginning of Kirby. He has one about why hit stop is an important thing in combat games. He has something about explaining what exactly is a frame when people talk about frame rate. Now, it's a lot of stuff that I know already because I did video game and I did masters in video game design. So I know that stuff, but it is fun and useful to try to get that out to the larger player base so they can't. I mean, you do see a lot of like tweets and Discord stuff about why can't the developer just do this? Why can't the developer just do that? That would make it easier. Come on, guys, I could do this. Or you have the side-by-side stuff of like HD Super Mario game and then like artist rendition of hyper-realistic Mario or whatever. Why can't it look like this now? And like all sorts of reasons that I do not have time to go into why it won't look like that, but whatever. Anyway, it's there. I've subbed to it. There's only a couple of videos on it at the moment. They're all fairly short. You know, they're not big lengthy essays or anything like that, but it is nice to see that from someone who is particularly well known in the video game industry. He would be, I think, pretty well known by hardcore gamers, at least. Maybe not too well known by casual gamers, but it's good to get that out there. If Hideo Kojima's podcast is something like that, that would be nice too. Sakurai is so cool, lol. He is. He's a cool guy. His Smash Bros. Updates, anytime a new character came out, they were always really funny videos. But he always went into a lot of depth about the characters and even into the history of the characters. They're really good videos. Even if you don't play Smash Bros., like, your favorite character is probably in the game. Just check out some of those videos. We all saw him in the Smash videos as well. Yeah, exactly. So I think like gamers would know who he is. So I thought that is Go Away Kotaku. Someone would know it. This is an article that's going into like a talk that was given about defining limits for loot boxes, and it's like, where do we draw the line for like against like problematic people who have issues with gambling, people who have issues with addiction and so on. It's not a particularly long article, but I would recommend it as it's a pretty good read. I mean, the answer to it is, people want money. That's the reason. That's the reason we don't draw a line under loot boxes, is because money guy want more money. But there's some good stuff in there, like highlighting dark patterns, like shady practices, why you're given just a bit too much money, or why the amount of gems you can buy is never quite enough to buy the thing you want in the loot box, and things like that. Like, there's some interesting things, psychological things happening in that article. We'll finish just with one really small dumb stuff thing it's a No Man's Sky mod. So if you have not played No Man's Sky, you may not be aware that, or if you haven't played it in a while, you may not be aware that the game introduced mechs a while ago, where you could have this little mech that would walk around on the planet with you, and it was good for like mining things a little bit faster. It had better carrying capacity and so on and so forth. So this is a mod. Somebody jumps in their big freighter that has their ship. Sorry, doesn't have their ship. Has their mech on it, and they get into their mech. At some point, as they jump into their mech, and they just Titanfall onto the planet. So, if you haven't played No Man's Sky, you can seamlessly go from space to the planet's surface. It's not exactly seamless because there is a bit of there's like a fake loading screen kind of in between the two of them, where it squashes the distance so that you're not taking a million years to get to the surface of the planet, because it would take that long. The Titan I call it. The mech also doesn't have its own propulsion system. It's just falling under gravity. So it takes a while for him to get there. This is not something you can do in the game. I think if you leave, a spaceship in your mech, I'm not sure what stops you. I think you can't. It either doesn't open the door, or it might have an invisible wall on the dock. I'm not sure what's that. Again, I haven't played No Man's Sky in quite a while. In the video, he's like, I think he skips ahead a bit here in the video as well, but it's like he's falling for a full 30 minutes before he actually hits the surface. I do think he skips ahead. We're going to skip ahead anyway. And he lands. Doesn't take any fall damage. He's fine. Again, it's a mod. There's obviously some things have been put in to make it a little bit easier for them, but it's a bit nuts that somebody could put in something like that. And No Man's Sky has changed quite a bit. I maybe consider going. I keep doing this. I consider maybe I'll go back and play No Man's Sky. So I don't have time. I don't have time to do that. Anyway, let's leave Midnight Fight Express to loop. Anyway, that was the news for 22nd to 28th of August 2022. So Gamescom opening night live, a lot of games announced. Vast majority of them were pre-rendered CG cutscenes, so we don't have CG trailers rather. So we don't have a lot of idea of how the game actually plays. You know, what these new games will actually play. How far along are they? A lot of them don't have release dates. So not great. I mean, they all, like, a lot of them look interesting, sure, but until we have some kind of idea of when they're coming out, it's hard to say. There were also a lot of games shown off outside of opening night live. So there was like an indie game showcase. There was like a feature games, PC focused kind of thing showcase as well. I have almost certainly missed games that you are probably interested in, and I've almost certainly either missed them or I'm not particularly interested in them myself. So I would suggest, check out. As much as I don't like them too much, but they did have good coverage. So I would check out like IGN, GameSpot's YouTube channels for a lot of different videos from the floor of Gamescom. Definitely things I would have missed. Developer interviews where they go into a bit more detail on their games. Like Callisto Protocol had a pretty decent interview. Devil in Me has a pretty decent interview. The Lies of P, the Pinocchio Bloodborne game. There's quite a few places have like their gameplay from the show floor showing that off as well. It is very much Bloodborne, but you're Pinocchio. So that's interesting. New releases, what we're looking at here, Midnight Fight Express. I'm hoping we'll play it next week rather. But it's going to be in a coin flip with another game, so we'll find out. And Soul Hackers 2, I don't know. I do want to play it. We will get to it eventually. I'm just not sure when. 'Cause it is a JRPG. I kind of want to keep all the JRPGs on Saturdays because they're quite long. And I have more time to stream on Saturdays, so I was thinking that. Industry bullshit. There wasn't a whole lot of bullshit. All of the bullshit was mostly confined to Gamescom this week. Other than the PQube, Toge Productions grant thing. Again, it feels like that's probably going to go into litigation, so we won't know a whole lot until the actual court case comes up. Sony increasing the price. Not a good look for them, but they can get away with it because the demand is there. Meta did something similar with the Meta Quest. They just arbitrarily added $100, €100 on top of the price. Just fuck you. He'll buy it. PSVR 2 has a release window at least, but we don't know what early 2023 means. No. Whose definition of early are we going with? It would be nice to have a price in mind so I can either put the money aside or budget for it or whatever, because I want to get it. Yeah. So we'll take a look then at what's going to happen on the channel next week. So here is our game mosaic, our game roadmap for the second half of 2022. So this week we played a bit more of the council. We are, I think... Where is the council on this? There. We played a bit more of the council this week. We are about halfway through episode 3 of the council. It's a 5-episode game. I think we're talking maybe 2 or 3 streams left on that. It's been fun, but a lot of the threads are coming together now. We are seeing who the villains and who the allies are in the game at this point. We also played and finished Batman Arkham Asylum. So my estimation on how many streams were left in that game was way off. I think I forgot that Poison Ivy fight and the Joker fight are like right after each other. So I thought there was another section in between Poison Ivy and Joker, but there isn't. What else did we play? Friday, I played a bit of Thymesia, which is Plague Doctor Bloodborne, kind of. It's an interesting game. It's obviously janky, because it just looked like it was going to be janky, and it is janky. It has some interesting game mechanics beyond the Bloodborne stuff. It's taking notes from Neo as well, and it does have some of its own ideas where you can like steal weapons from other enemies and use them against them. I was a bit salty at the end of the playthrough just because that boss was really annoying and he had many health bars. He had more than one health bar, which I kind of guessed going into it, but the realization hit a lot harder and I was like, fuck this, I'm not playing anymore. So that stream is a bit shorter than it would normally have been, but whatever. I'll probably go back to it when I have calmed down a little bit. But it's an interesting game. And Saturday we continued Xenoblade Chronicles 2, moving along on that. I'm not sure. Since I haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 before, I don't actually know how much longer is left in the game. Could be halfway, could be a third of the way, could be almost finished. I don't know. Well, I don't think we're almost finished, but somewhere in and along that. But next week, so Returnal with Melwen, maybe. They were not feeling particularly well this week, so we didn't go ahead with it on Monday. But hopefully, I think they are feeling a bit better now. So hopefully, we'll have some co-op Returnal on Monday. Melwen has never played the game before, and I have platinumed it. So we're coming at 2 very different viewpoints of the game. There's obviously going to be a lot of rust from me on playing the game, so don't take it, don't give me too much shit if I am terrible at it right away. I have platinumed it. I will show you the platinum. I have done it. So we're hopefully going to play a bit of Returnal co-op on Monday. Wednesday, we will get back to the council, so continuing whenever YouTube is ready. Continuing looking into whatever's going on this island with Lord Mortimer and gang. Why aren't you going full screen? Something has gone very wrong on YouTube. Anyway, full screen? Stuck with this. Have I lost internet? Is that what's happened? Am I good? No, internet's still there. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we're moving on with the council. We came onto the island to locate our mother who had gone missing. We have found her. She is quite worse off for wear. She's very roughed up and seems to be paranoid, or well, no, she's paranoid. But the question is, does she have a reason to be paranoid, or is she going nuts? We don't know yet. We have finished Batman Arkham Asylum, but we will be going back to it this week because I do want to. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. Thank you. I do want to get all of the Diddler trophy stuff. I do want to find all of those, the 100% things. I do want to find the Arkham City Easter eggs, because there is stuff in Arkham Asylum that alludes to the next game, Arkham City. So I do want to find that as well. So I figure we will do a bit of that on Thursday. Just try to mop up the 100% on that. For Friday, again, I do have a free Friday. Sometimes I have D&D. This week I don't. So we're going to flip a coin between Midnight Fight Express and Rollerdrome. It was between Rollerdrome and Thymesia last week. Thymesia won. Now it is between Rollerdrome and Midnight Fight Express. So we'll do a best of 5. This is tense. Okay, 1 for Rollerdrome. 1 for Midnight Fight Express. 2 for Rollerdrome. 3 for Rollerdrome. Okay, it's gonna be Rollerdrome this week. Again, I said I wanted to play Midnight Fight Express, but I want to play Rollerdrome too, so it's good that it's getting in there. Rollerdrome, if you didn't see, we showed a little bit last week, but think Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Jet Set Radio, and Quake, I guess. So it's an arena shooter thing where you do tricks and stunts to refill your ammo, and then shoot guys and accrue multiplayer points and things like that. You do little styles and flips and what have you to build up your multiplier, but you also need to do tricks to also refill your ammunition. And yeah, that's it. It's just look at it. It looks fun. I want to play it. So we'll play a bit of Rollerdrome on Friday. Saturday, we will continue with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Someday I will finish it. Someday I'll finish the game. For people who have played the game already, we have made it to Indal. And the villain of the game, Jin, has found this living tank nuke thing. And he's decimating one of the other kingdoms with it. Is kind of stealth starting a war because they don't know it's Jin in the tank. They think it's the other army that's in the tank. So some stuff's happening there. So we'll have a look at Xenoblade Chronicles. Not have a look. Continue Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on Saturday, and then we'll be right back around to the weekly news. We'll be right back around to the weekly news recap on the Sunday. So that was news, 22nd to the 28th. Of August 2022, and the channel update for next week. So we'll be looking at hopefully Returnal with Melwin co-op on Monday, tomorrow. A break on Tuesday because I have D&D. Wednesday, the Council, continuing on with that. We're about halfway, I think, maybe a little bit more than halfway because I think the latter episodes are a bit shorter. Thursday, Batman Arkham Asylum After Hours, where we're just going to try to mop up some of the collectibles, the Riddler trophies, puzzles, and that kind of thing. Friday, Rollerdrome, so skating around, doing tricks, shooting guys. And Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on Saturday, just continuing, hopefully trying to avert large-scale war, which I don't think will happen, but we'll try. And then we'll be back here again on Sunday. So, I'm going to head off. Have a good rest of your weekend, of whatever is left of it. And hopefully I'll see you guys for Returnal tomorrow. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.